Hey everybody, and welcome to Real Supernatural Encounters. For my guest today, I have Vikki, and she has quite a few stories to tell you. If you like, would you give a brief bio about yourself, Vikki?
So, hello everybody. I'm Vikki, Vix to my friends. I'm 40 years old. I live in North Wales in the United Kingdom. I'm a spiritualist, psychic medium, past life regression hypnotherapist, life between lives regression hypnotherapist. I'm a sound healer. I am a Reiki practitioner. I am an ordained minister. I'm a demonologist. And I'm also a witch, but I'm a good witch. I'm a white witch. I only use magic for positive outcomes. And I think that's about it.
All right. If you're ready, you could start with your first experience, or start from when you were a child and tell all your experiences from there.
Okay, so the first most profound experience I remember, and it sticks in my mind so vividly, was I was 7 years old, and my youngest brother had just been born, so we had to move house to be able to accommodate for a third child. And me and my middle brother, we were sharing a room. And the door was kind of like here, and my bed was facing right down there with the window to the side of me. And my brother's bed faced upwards towards my bed. And we had like a little maybe 3-foot walkway between the bottom of our beds. And I was quite poorly as a child. I had type 1 childhood diabetes that had gone undiagnosed. And that led to me having excessive thirst. And I'd stolen a little cup, you know, that you get to screw on the top of a flask.
Yeah.
And I'd stole that and taken it upstairs so that I could get water out the bathroom in the night. And I got out of bed, and it was the summertime, so it was quite warm. And I got out of bed, and I'd gone to get this drink of water. I'm getting a bit emotional now just even talking about it. And I heard what I thought was either my mum or my dad coming up the stairs. So I ran back into my room and got in the bed and put my little flask cup under the pillow so nobody would find it. And I heard this like shuffling. And I thought, oh gosh, that's my mum. I'm going to get, you know, she's going to know I've been out of bed now. And it shuffled like at the back of me towards the foot of my brother's bed. But nobody said anything. And I thought, okay, that's a bit weird, because mum would know I've been out of bed. And as I turned over, what I saw was a figure. And it must have been about 3 foot tall. And it was just there at the bottom of my brother's bed. And I couldn't see any face. So I still say to this day, it was just staring at him. And he was there just lying on his back, fast asleep, knew nothing about nothing. And I rolled over really quickly and I could feel my heart racing. I was terrified. And I could actually see the breath as I was breathing. The room was icy cold. And then the next thing I remember is hearing this shuffling. And bearing in mind, we just moved into this house. And me and my brother were only sharing a room while mine was being decorated. And we had no carpet or anything on the floorboards. You know, we're going back to like 1987 now. So there was no laminated flooring or anything like that back in the day. And all we had at that time was bare floorboards, and I could hear it shuffling across the wood. And it left the room and the door slammed like really hard behind it. And I screamed at the top of my lungs. I screamed and screamed and screamed. And my mum came running up, and I told my mum what had happened. And she said to me, you know what I've told you to do. You have to call on Archangel Michael when things like this happen. And from a very, very young age, my mum would always tell me, you know, if I was frightened or I was scared, to call upon Archangel Michael to come and protect me and take care of me. My mum's actually an angelologist now.
Oh, wow.
My dad never believed me. But I don't think it was that he didn't believe me. I think it was more that because he was a man, he felt inadequate to be able to protect me as his child from something that he had no, you know, something that wasn't physical. You know, like if a burglar came to our house and tried to harm us, you know, my dad could physically fight back. But what was happening with me as a child, my dad couldn't fight it. And I think that's kind of like where I always thought that he didn't believe me. But I don't think that now. I do think it was more a male pride thing going on there with him.
Yeah.
The next experience I remember, I must have been 11. And I had a great aunt. And she married late in life, so she never had any children. And I was like the child she never had. And she'd given me this like little crystal swan paperweights thing. And it was on my computer desk. And I'd had a dream about her this night, sitting by the fire and falling asleep in her armchair. And I woke up the following morning with her on my mind. And as I looked over to my computer desk, where I had like a clock to see the time, this crystal swan just ever so gently glided across the computer desk. And it stopped right at the other end before it tipped off, you know? And I heard, not in my ears, but here in my mind, that my aunt had passed away in the night. And it was my brother's birthday. So I'd gone downstairs shouting and screaming, you know, my aunt's passed away. And my dad said to me, oh, you're just being silly. You're just making up a drama, trying to spoil your brother's birthday, you know, as children do. But I couldn't get rid of it. I couldn't shake this. And then I remember my grandma coming down at tea time for my brother's birthday tea. And she'd announced that she had news, and we were all told to go upstairs. And then I remember my mum coming upstairs, and she said to me, how did you know? And I said, know what? And she said that your Auntie Dora passed away in the night. And I said, I don't know, Mum. I don't know. Something told me here in my mind. And I said, she has passed away, hasn't she? And my mum said, yes, she's passed away.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was kind of like when I knew that I was gifted. But I didn't know how to use it back then. I didn't know how to control it. So I tried to block it. Mm-hmm. But I had quite a difficult childhood, not at home, more so in the way that I didn't fit in. I didn't like what other kids liked. I used to like going out playing in nature, and you know, I amazed my family at how I could read a sundial, where I'd had no, you know, I hadn't been shown how to do it, and I just knew. And I think that's a lot to do with past life memory recall, but of course I didn't know that back then. And then I kind of like, I hit 16 and I went off the rails a bit. I suppose I was what you'd call a troubled teen. I met a guy, moved in with him, had a very difficult relationship with him. And then when I was around 18, I had this hunger for the paranormal. There was something out there. I needed to know what I'd been through as a child with paranormal phenomena. And I kind of like went in search of the paranormal, you know, doing my own investigations, things like that. Obviously, we didn't have the kit back then, what we've got now. But I always knew that there was more than the paranormal. There was more to it than just ghosts. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think like where I went from there. Then I started to have problems with my legs and my lower mobility. And one thing led to another, and I became confined to a powered wheelchair, which of course I still use now. And for me, that was it. I couldn't research the paranormal anymore or anything like that, or so I felt at the time. I met my now husband, who I believe is my twin flame. That's another story altogether. And then in 2014, April the 26th, so that's coming up the anniversary, 7 years. About 2 weeks before that, I started getting these feelings of dread. And it wasn't anxiety. Anxiety's worry. This was dread, that something really, really bad was going to happen to me. I felt like my life was in danger, but I didn't know why.
Yeah.
And I texted my mum and I said to my mum, I'm going to die. And she said, oh, don't be silly. What are you talking about? And by this point, I was now an alcoholic. I had a drink problem through a previous relationship. I turned, you know, I can't say through a previous relationship because that person didn't turn me to drink. That's not, you know, that wouldn't be fair to say. I used drink as a coping mechanism of trauma. So my mum thought I was drunk, and you know, I was being melodramatic. And I said, no, Mum, there's something wrong with my heart. I'm going to die, because I've tried to tell doctors and they won't listen to me. And Mum thought, well, the doctors are saying no, there's nothing wrong, so there isn't anything wrong. And then 2 weeks later, I became seriously ill. And my now husband phoned an ambulance and they took me to hospital, where they diagnosed I was having a heart attack, referred to as a widowmaker heart attack for those reasons. I was rushed from Wrexham, North Wales, to a specialist heart and lung centre in Liverpool, 60, 70 miles away, where they put a little camera into my heart to have a look at what was going on. And they found that all 3 arteries leading to my heart were blocked. and I needed to have open heart surgery to correct that. Now that was booked for 3 days later, but then I contracted pneumonia, and I was seriously ill. So I was admitted on the 26th of April, and I finally had my heart surgery on the 2nd of June. 3 days, I was doing well. You know, everything was looking good. And then 3 days later, just out of the blue, I suffered something called ARDS, which is acute respiratory distress syndrome. And I couldn't breathe. And they took me up to intensive care. I was put on the CPAP ventilation, and it didn't really help. Then I was put on I had like a tent over my head with ventilators attached, and that really wasn't helping. And an anaesthetist came to see me, lovely guy, massive respect to him. And he said, I think the safest option now is to put you to sleep because you're too weak to fight. And I said, no, I'll die. I won't wake up if you put me to sleep. So he said, right, okay, well, we'll leave you with the tent for a little bit longer, but it's easier for us to put you to sleep now rather than if you actually do have a respiratory arrest. So it's not done in a rush. We can do it now nice and gently, you know, and peacefully and calmly. And I kept refusing. And my husband was outside, and they'd asked did I want to bring him in, and I said no. I didn't want him to see me like that.
Yeah.
And then I had this fight in me. And then suddenly I thought, no, do you know, I fought this hard so far, and I've survived. I'm actually going to let this now be in the hands of the divine. And I am going to do what I've got to do. So I waved for the anaesthetist to come over, and he come over, and I said, just do it. So he said, I can't. He said, I've got to have you tell me what it is that you want me to do. So I said, put me to sleep. So he said, is there anything you want to say to me or anything like that? And I said, just, if you can help it, don't let me die. So casual, you know?
Yeah.
So they were cleaning all the tools and the little, you know, the tool that they use to get in, and I'm watching all this going on at the foot of the bed, and there's an anaesthetist at the back of me, and he's bagging me. And then they start putting the anaesthetic into my hand, so gently, and I was just drifting off, and the fear just left me.
Yeah.
And it was such a, in the midst of a major panic, you know, and I'm fighting for my life. Suddenly there was just this serenity, this tranquility, and this peacefulness. And I can't explain it. I've never felt anything like that since, until my near-death experience. And I remember as I was going out, I was in Egypt, and I could see the pyramids and the Sphinx. And my youngest brother, who I'm very, very close to, and my sister, their faces were flashing in the face of the Sphinx. And it was really, really strange, but I can, you know, sitting here talking about it, I can see it. And then that was it. I was out. I don't remember anything. My family tell me that they came to visit me in a coma, and the staff woke me up and they would ask me to wiggle my toes, and I'd wiggle my toes. But I don't remember any of that until the actual event. So there wasn't really anything leading up to it. It was just kind of like wham bam, and there I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of like traveling at high speed. And you know how people say, you know, about the tunnel, there was no tunnel for me. I'm not saying that those that do see the tunnel are wrong. I'm just saying, you know, that wasn't the case for me. It was just a big open space. And there was all these colours, and the best way I can describe it is it was like the northern lights everywhere, all around me. I was just surrounded by the northern lights. And I could hear machines beeping. I could hear like trolleys coming on the wheels, you know, I could hear the wheels going around. I could hear my husband shouting, I could hear doctors talking. But it was like, you know, when you're underwater and you get that muffled kind of noise,
Yeah.
so you can't hear it clearly. It was like that, but very distant, if that makes sense. And then the next thing, that all stops. I don't hear anything, and I stop moving. I'm not moving anymore, and I'm still. And I become very aware of somebody standing to my right, holding my right hand. And the hand was too big to be a male. It was a very small adult. My best friend had committed suicide the January before, and I believe that was her who was with me holding my hand. I think my eyes were open. I think, but I could see anyway, whether they were open or not. I don't even know if I actually had eyes. I don't think I had a body. Yet I still had the sensation of a body. If that makes any sense, it's so hard to describe. And I was surrounded by pure, brilliant white light, like nothing I can describe, nothing I've ever seen before, nothing I'll ever see ever again on Earth's realm. But it wasn't see-through. It was thick, it was dense. It was like white, like brilliant white fog. But then again, it was too thick to be fog. I couldn't see anything. It's so hard. I'm just trying to picture it again now so I can try and be as descriptive as I can. Very, very dense and thick. And I tried to lift my left hand up, you know, to put it in front of my face to see if I could see it. And I felt the movement of my arm coming up, but I had no arm. And I couldn't see anything. And I could hear this giggling, like, you know, like in the distance. So I called out and I asked, who is that? And it just giggled at me again, like a little playful giggle. So I shouted again, who is that? What, you know, where am I? And again, there was nothing, just this giggling. And I was becoming quite frustrated. And then I heard family. And as I heard that, I didn't hear it in my ears, I didn't hear it around me, I heard it here again. And I now know as a medium that this is how I receive messages, but I didn't at the time. And I heard what I now know to be light language. And it was like singing, like do, ra, mi, like that kind of a,
Yeah.
a singing, and I now know that that was communication. That is how they speak. And it was like blips and like beeps and these funny noises. And in the distance, I heard my name being called, but it wasn't there. It was somewhere else. And I was very aware that I was in, for want of a better word, another dimension.
Okay.
Or rather, my higher self was, my soul was. And it sounded like really like tinny, like echoey. And I didn't want to go, because where I was, I felt love. Like a love I can't explain. I felt serenity. I felt so much peace. I felt safe. I felt like I said that I didn't really fit in as a child with other groups of people. But in this moment, it was the first time in my life I had ever felt like I belonged, like I really belonged. I didn't want to come back. And I heard this voice call again. And as it did, whoever, which I do believe is my friend, was holding my right hand, let go of my hand, and gently pushed me on my right shoulder. And then again, I've got this movement, this fast movement. And a lot of people describe it as flying, but I didn't feel like I was flying. I just felt like I didn't feel like I was like solid. I felt like I was just everywhere. Like fragmented but whole.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense at all. Like I could be as big or as small as I wanted to be, or as wide or as tall. You know, I was just everywhere. And again, I saw all the lights. And then I hear beeping. And my husband's crying. And he's got his hands here and his head like that. And my hand was under here. He was holding my hand. And I started to feel his tears. And I opened my eyes. And instantly I became aware that I had tubes in my throat. And I was trying to talk, and obviously I couldn't with these tubes. So I was trying to pull at them. And the nurses came and held my hands down, you know, while I came to and everything. And I thought, I think I'm just having a near-death experience. I knew instantly, I knew. But I didn't feel like me anymore. I wasn't me.
Yeah.
And there was a nurse shouting, and I could hear her. But now she was where I was. We were in the right. We were in the right dimension together. But I still couldn't see. I was blinded. I was still blinded from this white light that I'd just seen. So I used my hand to signal for her to come forward. And as her voice got closer, she started to come into view. And then a doctor came and explained that they tried to wake me up from my coma, and I got agitated and I'd become distressed, and I pulled my tubes out, and I had some pacing wires here in my chest leading to my heart, and I pulled my pacing wires out, and they'd kind of like lost me for about 5 minutes.
Oh wow.
But it seems like I was there a lot longer than 5 minutes. And then for a couple of days, I was seeing things very, very, very clearly. I was waking up in the night. Because I was in intensive care, I had to have a nurse stay with me to monitor me. And I'd wake up in the night and I'd, just look over groggy. And I'd see the nurse over at the little desk in the room reading a magazine or a book on the night shift. And I saw a man walk into the room. And I looked at him and he just put his hand up and off he trotted. And he was in pajamas. And I thought nothing of it until the following day when I spoke to the nurse. And I said, there was a man that got out of his bed and came in here last night. I said, I thought that everybody who was in intensive care was like confined to their rooms. Oh, she said, they are. There was nobody walking about last night. She said, we were all incredibly busy with the man in room number 7. Oh, I said, yeah. She said, we kept arresting. I said, yeah. She didn't know the alarms were going off. She said, well, sadly, we lost him last night. And I was like, oh. And that's when I joined the dots, that was that man. And my husband had been put up on the hospital grounds in like a B&B, and he was staying with that man's wife. They were kind of like in the B&B together, and she was taking care of my husband, making sure that he was eating and things like that. And I don't know, I believe that that's why he came to me. Mm-hmm. And then I was discharged from hospital, and I was sitting at home, and the radio was playing, and it was the ad break, and I was singing Don't Stop Moving, I think that's what it's called, by S Club 7. I just started singing it in the ad break. The ad break finished and that song started playing. And Kev was like, wow, Kev, my husband, he's like, wow, is that your new party trick? And I was like, oh, no, as it's coincidence. But then it was happening all the time. I was able to know what song was going to come on the radio next.
Wow.
And it's so surreal. And I mean, like, even now, my husband is a big Liverpool Football Club supporter. He'll say to me, what's the scores going to be tonight before they play? And I'll tell him, and 9 times out of 10, it's bang on point. And it's just a knowing. It's just a knowing that comes from within. Then about 6 weeks after I was discharged from hospital, my vision was slowly declining. I started like getting these little black spots and squiggly lines in my eyes. And I went to see an optician, and they referred me to a specialist at the hospital. And I lost my sight. I do have type 1 diabetes, so a lot of diabetics do lose their sight. But for it to just happen the way it did, without any warning in that short space of time, is quite unusual.
Yeah.
And I was angry about it at the time. I was like, well, listen, right, I've got heart and lung disease. I've been through major open heart surgery. You've been through traumatic ordeal. Now I've lost my sight. What more are you going to give me? How much more can I handle? But now I know, or rather I believe, that me losing my sight was a small price I had to pay for what happened when I like to refer to it as up there, and it's like I say, I'm not here to convince anybody of my story. I'm rather here to share my experience in the hope that it can bring others hope that this is not it. There is something else out there, you know, and if it can even just eliminate a little bit of that fear that people have of death, and you know, that being kind of like a cutoff, and there's nothing more for the whole of eternity, you know, I'm living proof that there is something else. So I went through what I believe was a soul switch during my NDE. I'm a walking soul, a Syrian starseed. Before my near-death experience, I wasn't the nicest of people. I was selfish. I thought the world owed me a favor. I always perceived it to be that I'd always had the kick in the teeth. I'd always got the raw deal of everything. It was never my fault. It was always someone else's fault. I used alcohol as a coping mechanism for trauma instead of dealing with my issues. And of course, we all know that when you've had alcohol and you've got issues, it's all right for the first couple of drinks, and then after a few more, the problem's 10 times bigger and exaggerated, isn't it? And that's kind of like where I was at. But after my near-death experience, I was completely different. Completely different. And my mum's even sat there, my sister, my dad, and said, you know what? Are you sure that you had open heart surgery that day and not a personality transplant? But I felt like I had to mourn for the old me. I had to let the old me go to truly embrace the new. And that was such a difficult, very emotional experience. But the healing that has come from that has been immense, absolutely immense. So I'm here 7 years on, and it was roughly around 4 years ago that accidentally, well, I say accidentally, call it divine intervention, call it downloads and upgrades. I discovered that I had the traits of a Syrian starseed. The links to ancient Egypt, the wolves, well, in my case, it's dogs. I've actually got 6 dogs. People call me mad. Witchcraft, the goddess Isis was a Syrian. My love for music, my ability to sing. I'm able to sing. Well, I'm not now because my vocal cords got damaged when I was ventilated, but I was able to sing very, very low tones and very, very high tones, like without going in between. And people have often wondered, how does she do that? But apparently it is a Syrian trait. And I bought myself a life-sized copper meditation pyramid to start working on it and doing pyramid energy healing. And that's when I discovered that is also linked to being able to channel Syrian energy, but I didn't know that at the time. So again, you know, I no longer believe in coincidence. I believe in synchronicity. And it was, you know, things like that. And the more I read, the more I researched, the more I learned, the more I began to fit, the more I began to feel that this is me. I am this. We are one, you know. This is who and what I am. And then I started to look at, you know, life on Sirius, what it would be like. And from looking at all of that, I do believe that my near-death experience took me to Sirius. I went home, where I am from. And the walking soul, who I am now essentially, was up there waiting for me. And that, my near-death experience, all my health there, it had to happen for that switch to take place.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I believe, I planned well before my birth. There was an incident back in 2001, well, 2001 struck 2002. It was a New Year's Eve, 2001, and I'd been out with my ex-partner, my mum, and my stepdad, who's now sadly passed. And I hadn't had much to drink that night. I wasn't feeling my best. And coming home, my ex-partner got into a bit of an argument. So my mum and my stepdad were walking one way, and I kind of like branched off from them without realizing. And I thought, well, it's okay, I'll just walk home. So I'm walking a very short distance home, not even a quarter of a mile. Quite a, not a main road, but not a side street, just a normal road. And there was a little clearing, which was a car park for the cemetery. I actually lived on the back of the cemetery. And I got to there, and my memory's gone. And I've actually got quite a good memory. But the next thing I remember is, again, I see all these colours, like I saw during my near-death experience, like the Northern Lights, but not just the greens and the blues. It was pinks and purples and magenta. It was colours that I can't describe because I've never seen on Earth. I've never seen with my naked eye. And I could hear all these like whirling and like swooshing kind of noises around me. I didn't know where I was, and I couldn't see anything other than all these beautiful lights. But I could feel pressure in my lower tummy area. Not pain, just pressure.
Mm.
And then it was over as quick as it started. And then I'm walking into my street, but I don't know how I've got from this clearing where the cemetery is, like around and into my street. And I got to my front door, and my brother said, "Where have you been?" Because my brother was looking after my younger sister in my house. He said, "It's 3:30. And I said, "What?" He said, "It's 3:30 in the morning. Where have you been till now?" And I remember when I'd left the club that we were in, there was like a big theatre, I guess you'd call it, with a large clock on it, and it was 12:30 on the clock when I left. And it certainly didn't take me 3 hours to walk home, and it was bouncing down with rain. And I hadn't noticed, but my brother said to me, "You've been in somebody's house, you have, when you should have come straight home so I could have gone home." I said, "I haven't been in anybody's house." He said, "Well, you clearly have." And I said, "Well, how do you know that?" He said, "Because it's bouncing down with rain and you're bone dry." And I looked at myself and I looked at the rain. I was like, oh. And I'm trying to make sense of this without frightening him and without sounding absolutely crazy. And then a couple of days later, I spoke to my mum about it. And my mum said, she said, you took something, you did, thinking I'd taken drugs or something while I'd been out. Yeah. I said, no, I swear I didn't. I don't do that. I liked alcohol, yeah, but I didn't, And then I said, I think somebody's been messing about. And she said, what do you mean? I said, in my stomach with my with my lady's organs. And she said, oh, you're being silly. Don't be daft. You're having me on. You're pulling me leg. I said, no, I said, I'm not. I'm genuinely not. And then it would have been around about the May. Yeah, about the May. I got up one morning in absolute agony. And I'd taken painkillers and nothing was shifting this pain. And I had to go into hospital by ambulance. And they thought I was having an ectopic pregnancy. So they did all their scans and all their tests and everything. And it turns out I had a huge abscess on one of my fallopian tubes. And I said, well, how do you get an abscess in your fallopian tube? I was only 21, you know, I was only a young pup. And he said, well, usually it's caused after surgery. Well, I said, I've had no surgery. So he said, well, we need to go in and sort it all out and everything. So they put me to sleep and came to see me after it was all done. And he said to me, Victoria, he said, you told me that you've never had any surgery in that area. I said, I haven't. I said, this is my first. And he said, well, we found lots of little tears in the fallopian tube. He said, we've had to remove the whole of the left fallopian tube. And I said, oh my goodness, does this mean I'm not going to be able to have children? He said, no, not at all, he said. But he said, we also put a little cut into your tummy button and we put a camera in so that we could have a look. He said, but that's not the first time you've had that done, is it? And I said, well yeah. I said, absolutely. I've never had no gynae problems or anything like that. He said, because you've got a scar in your navel from a previous laparoscopy of a camera being inserted in there. And I looked at my mum and I said, I told you so. I told you. And my mum was just, the colour drained from her face. But I do believe that something happened. And I do believe that I was abducted that night. And I don't think that they meant me harm. I think that they were just, I don't know, maybe experimenting. But yeah.
Is that all you can think of? Is that the end of your experiences, or do you have a few more?
I do have an interesting experience. I'm very close to my sister. Very, very close. I believe that we were twins in a past life. Catherine, her name is, and she's a Buddhist. So she's into her meditation and, you know, all that kind of thing, mindfulness and so on. And I had a dog, Toto. I get a bit emotional sometimes talking about him. I'm going to try not to. Unfortunately, I had to have him put to sleep on winter solstice 2018. So that was in the December. In the September, I had this awful dream. And there was me and my sister with Toto at the vet's. And the vet, I always remember, she had long blonde hair like this to the side in a plait. And me and my sister, there was the vet's table. I was one side, my sister was the other. We both had a front paw of Toto's like that, and me and her were holding hands as he was put to sleep. And I knew that this time was going to come. So, you know, it probably wouldn't have been anything untoward dreaming about it because I knew that me making that decision was coming, you know?
Yeah.
And I'd woke up absolutely hysterical, inconsolable. My husband had gone to make me a cup of tea and some toast, and I was crying. And my phone rang. And of course, my phones don't ring these days. People use Facebook Messenger and Zoom, and you know, and it come up Kath, which is obviously my sister. And I thought, oh gosh, this must be serious for her to be ringing me at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I answered, and she went, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Not really, no." And she said, "Something's happened to Toto, hasn't it?" And I said, "No, why? Why are you asking me that?" And she said, "I've just had the most awful dream." And I went, whoa. Tell me what this dream was about.
Mm-hmm.
And she described every detail of that dream, how I had dreamt it. And me and her now believe that we astral travel together a lot. And we dream the same. Well, it's not, technically it's not dreaming, is it? It's actually, you know, your higher self in the astral realms. And I believe that she came that day to show me that, so that it would soften the blow. It would not soften the blow, but prepare me for what was to come. And when that did happen, when that day came that I had to take Toto, it happened exactly the same. Every detail as it did in that dream. Every single detail. Even right down to the vet having her long blonde hair pulled to the side in a plait. Absolutely everything. And it's just, it's so strange. We have a lot of experiences together, me and my sister. At Christmas time, she was wrapping a gift for me, which was a canvas that she'd had printed of me and her on her wedding day. And she was wrapping it, and a song came on that me and her used to listen to when she was little. And then I was at home one night, I was in bed, and I heard this almighty bang. And I thought, what on earth is that? And as I looked down the side, the picture, this actual canvas, had flown off the wall and landed on the floor right at the side of me. And I rang her and I said, "Are you okay? Has something happened?" You know, like when you just know, your intuition tells you that something's not right. And she answered the phone and she said, "No, I'm an emotional mess." And I said, "Why? What's the matter?" She said, "I don't know." She said, "But I've just been listening to that song, the guy that we used to listen to, that used to play for me when I was little." She said, "And I just started thinking of you." And she said, "Why anyway? What are you picking up on something?" And I said, "Well, the canvas has actually just flown off the wall and landed at the side of me." So yeah. And I think that's about it, probably for the most profound experiences. Like what I can remember.
All right. You mentioned something about past life regression.
Sorry.
You mentioned something about past life regression. I was
Right.
wondering what have you learned or been told about your past life regression?
I haven't done my own past life regression. I'm more the person that takes other people to their past life rather than taking myself there. But I've used crystals, especially merlinite, the mystical merlinite. Indigo Gabbro, and meditated on that. And I visualized myself as a witch in Wales in the 1800s, and my name was Sarah. I was a very old witch, and it was the times of the witch hunts were still going on, and things like that. And I had a coven, and my coven took me underground, and we hid underground. And I never got to see the end of the witch hunts. I died underground, but I was looked after by my coven, and I saw myself dying in my bed with all my coven around me. And it wasn't a frightening experience. It was actually, it was a very beautiful experience, because I felt loved by these people that were with me.
That's pretty interesting. I did have a question about, so so that's the only thing you've done on yourself, or that you perceived as that, as being a witch. Have you also thought about going to do some past life regression on yourself, just to kind of find out like your past and everything?
I'd like to, but from the training that I've had, I don't believe that I would be able to regress myself, because I'd definitely be a resistor, like somebody who's not gonna be regressed easily. And I don't believe that I could deal with myself regressing myself. So it would have to be a therapist that could do that for me. But yeah, it's definitely something I've thought about. And I think more for me, it would be not to discover, but to clarify.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have tons of questions for you, so
Okay.
if you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned that you and your sister have this ability where you can kind of, you know, almost have the same dream or astral projection, and just kind of see the same type of things. Do you think that your family has some type of supernatural abilities that are carried down?
Absolutely, absolutely. My mum's a psychic medium. She's an angelologist, whereas I'm a demonologist. So we work well together with that. I believe that my mum's nana, which would be my great granny Hilda, I do believe that she's one of my guides. She helps me in a lot of what I do. She was a witch. She wasn't open about it like I am. She didn't broadcast it. But my mum always remembers having a crystal ball on top of the piano, at home.
Yeah.
She passed away long before I was born, so I've never met her, but I know her. When she comes to me, I just know it's her. And that was another experience actually me and my sister had. We both dreamt about this lady. We didn't know who she was. And I didn't know my sister had been dreaming it. She didn't know I had. And we were in mum's one day, just, it was Sunday afternoon, Sunday dinner, family time. And my mum got the photos out, and I stopped at an old wedding photo, and I said, who is that? And my mum said, that's your great nanny Hilda. And I said, that's her. That is her. That's who I've been dreaming about. And my sister looked at me and she went, you too? And I was like, whoa, what do you mean, me too? I said, you've been dreaming it. She said, I've been dreaming that since I've been about 8 years old. So yeah. Also on my dad's side, distant cousins, we've got 2 sisters who are psychic mediums as well.
Do you think that gets passed down, like even when you have children?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's all to do with DNA and genealogy, I guess.
Yeah.
I do believe it's like an ancestral type of thing.
You spoke about your mom being a angelologist. What
Right.
can you go more into that and explain to the audience what an angelologist is, or what kind of work she does?
Um, so she works with the archangel. She's attuned to angelic frequency, archangel. No, it's not just the archangels, it's all angels. She's attuned to angelic frequency. She
Okay.
uses angelic frequency for healing. She uses it for protection. What else does she use it for? She uses it for quite a lot of things. She talks about something called the seven archangels of the seven rays.
Hmm.
So of course I know what the seven rays are. She talks a lot about working with the ascended masters. And one thing she says to me is that the archangels will not interfere in your life. They won't intervene in anything unless you sit and you invoke them and you ask them to come and help you. And she says that there's a different archangel for a whole bunch of different things. One thing she's always drummed into me is, if I'm ever in trouble, just because I don't work with angelic frequency, I can still call upon them if I need to. And my go-to would be Archangel Michael. If I was ever in trouble and I needed that like instant protection. I do know another thing she's drummed into me is the Archangel Gabriel. For babies, he kind of like puts blessings on babies and he kisses them before they leave the womb. She does angel readings, so she's got a lot of like angel guides. But she calls Archangel Metatron her source. So
Okay.
you know, we all connect to source, and for Mum, that source is Archangel Metatron. I think he's described as being the crown of source, is it, and God's right hand man, and the Archangel Metatron is believed to be Enoch.
Oh, okay.
He was obviously around in the biblical times, and Enoch walked into heaven without having to die, so he can walk back into, and that's who Archangel Metatron is believed to be by many like angelologists. But that's roughly about all I know about what Mum does. I know she worships the archangels, and one thing she does say, I don't work for the archangels, I work with the archangels, and I work in alignment with them. And that's one thing she does make really
Yeah.
clear.
How long has she been doing this?
A lot longer than I ever believed.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. After my near-death experience, I went looking for groups, if you like, because I thought I was going crazy.
Hmm.
And I went looking for groups where, you know, I could find like-minded people and, you know, learn and try and ground myself a bit, really.
Yeah.
And I became part of a lovely, quite large group on Facebook. I became very good friends with the owner of that group. I worked my way and became a co-owner of that group. And we were struggling for admin to admin the group. It was a very, very big group. And we kind of like just grew really big, really quick, and we weren't prepared for that much growth. And I said to Mum, you know, can you just spare a couple of hours a day just to check on the comments, you know, make sure there's no bullying going on or anything like that. And Mum said, yeah. She said, I'll do that. She's like, I can do some angel readings as well, when I'm not in work. And I went, what? You can do what? Yeah, she said, I've got my angel cards. And I was like, oh, well, what are them? And she started explaining to me. And she said, I've been seeing what she calls angel lights since I've been about 3 years old.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow. And you've kept this hidden for all this time. And she said, I've tried to block it out because of other people's judgments. She said, but I'm ready now. I'm getting on in years, and I want to honor my path, not shy away from it. And she just kind of like, it was just like a switch, just like that, and it showed me just how long she has been doing this without nobody knowing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive that she has this ability to actually, see these angel lights. And
Yes.
then,
Yes.
and then she has this ability to where she can kind of work with them to better help others and your family and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, Now, in your first experience, you were telling us about where you seen that figure
Right.
by the bed. Are you able to describe in more detail what that figure looked like?
It was solid.
Solid.
It wasn't transparent. It wasn't smoke. It wasn't mist. It was solid.
Was it like a solid black, a solid gray,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
solid black? So like a
And it
shadow
was
person?
no,
No.
no. It was like an actual. It was like an actual person with a hood,
Okay.
and I could see the creases
Hmm.
in the hood where it's too big. Like on the back of the neck
Yeah.
where it was ruffled. I could see that, and it must have been about 3 foot tall. And because I could see these ruffles, I assumed that it was looking at my brother, because where the foot of his bed was, the foot of his bed, my head was like here, and the foot of his bed would have been here, and
Hmm.
it was right here, right in the middle of the foot of his bed, looking at him. And my brother was just on his back like that, just snoring away. And I'm not even sure if this thing was there to harm any of us, or if it was more a protector,
Yeah.
because it could have harmed us. You know, like I say, it wasn't transparent. It wasn't smoke. It wasn't mist. It was a solid figure that could have very easily done us harm if it really wanted to. And this is, this has gone over in my mind for, oh gosh, the past 33 years.
What
And
do you
I'm
think it is?
sorry.
What do you think it is? Or what do you think that entity was?
Truthfully,
Hmm.
I believe it was an extraterrestrial.
Okay. Okay. What kind?
I have no idea. I have no idea on that one. For many, many years, I thought it was a ghost or a spirit, because my mum had a lot of paranormal phenomenon when she was growing up.
Hmm.
And as she kind of like moved into that adult phase of her life and had me, it still plagued her while I was a child. And I used to communicate with things as a baby, move my eyes and gargle and, get excited about things that nobody else could see. And my mum's always said that, I was communicating with something only I could see. And I thought that, this was a ghost. It was, I'd even contemplated if it was demonic.
Hmm.
But now, knowing what I know and knowing how I felt, I'm probably about 75% sure that that was an extraterrestrial.
Okay.
And I believe that they followed me all my life.
Do you think that extraterrestrials and religious beings are connected?
Such as Jesus and the extraterrestrials.
Well, like maybe all of the religions that people hear, you know, with the angels or angelic beings, and then you have like these types of aliens or entities that also come down, and you got this show that they play called Ancient Aliens, where they try to
Right.
prove that, that religiousness could be just ancient aliens with advanced technology. Now, um, I used to be in the favor of that, but now
Right.
as I've gotten older, I've gotten more ideas and just kind of wondering, like, if they are connected, what is the connection? You know?
My views on that are very strange, and um, no, I don't feel it's connected, but then I do feel it's connected because I believe that we're all interconnected.
Yes. Yeah.
I believe that many of us walking the earth now have angelic, demonic, and godly. We've all got that DNA within us,
Yeah.
because I believe that back in the day, ancient times, the gods were breeding, and even the angelics were, impregnating women, and offspring were born, and we've kind of like come down the line, very, very diluted DNA, but still it's
Yeah.
there. But no, I wouldn't say that I am in favor of the extraterrestrials being linked to religion.
Mhm.
I believe that some terrestrials, like for example the Greys, are very much linked to the paranormal, as in shadow figures and that kind of thing.
Okay. You also mentioned in one of your experiences that you predict your aunt's death when you were younger. Have you predicted any other deaths or anything like that since then?
I did actually, yeah, I did. Um, it would have been my stepdad. He'd been poorly for quite some time.
Mhm.
My sister was only little, and she was staying with me. My mum was back into to hospitals, and and then he'd come back to Wrexham when he was quite poorly, and he just took a turn for the worst all of a sudden. And I always used to go down of an evening to see him, and this one day something was pulling me. You've got to go this afternoon. You've got to go this afternoon. And I couldn't shake it. And I knew something was going to happen. I didn't know exactly what, but I
Yeah.
knew it was something. And I knew that if I didn't go and get my sister there, it would be too late. And that's kind of like, yeah, that's how it happened. So I didn't so much predict it, but I knew.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Um, so what do you think the meaning was of your family when you died and you seen those faces in the Finks? What did you think that meant?
I think number one, it was a comfort for me.
Okay.
Number two, I strongly believe that I've had at least one past life in Egypt, ancient Egypt, at least one. But my mum also believes that she has too.
Okay.
And from seeing their faces there, I also believe that that's because they too had past lives in ancient Egypt.
Okay.
And I believe that that's kind of like my link to Sirius, is the earthly Egypt, kind of like to up there, that there's the connection.
Yeah. Okay. You were speaking about when you were in this realm, you seen these northern lights. What colors were they?
Oh wow, they were absolutely amazing. Have you ever seen a piece of labradorite crystal, and you kind of like turn it to the light and it's got all those like purple and pink and green and blue flashes on it? It was like having a big chunk of labradorite and I'm a little dot in the middle of it all.
Okay.
That's the best way I can describe it. And it was green, it was purple, it was blue, it was pink, it was yellow, it was orange, it was so many colors and absolutely beautiful. And it was like as if the colors worked together. They all kind of like knew the direction the other one was going in and kind of like trailed it and followed it. It's really hard to explain. It wasn't just like flashes or bursts of colors. It was almost as though the colors had a consciousness and they were, they were moving according to plan.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like a carefully thought out pattern, I suppose.
Yeah. I believe that. I believe that the universe carries, consciousness everywhere. And it's kind of why we say, like God's everywhere, because, we're all made of atoms. Atoms are everywhere.
Right.
And when we go to sleep, or say like when you died, you felt like you had a body, but you didn't have one. You felt the physical
Right.
parts, but you could see all around you all at once.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I definitely I side with you on that. Um, did you see your best friend, or just feel your best friend's hand when you were in that place?
I felt her here.
Okay.
I could feel her holding my hand, although I didn't have a hand.
Yeah.
I didn't see her. I saw absolutely nothing apart. When I was actually where I was supposed to be, I saw nothing apart from this amazing white light. And I believe that if I'd have gone through that white light, if it had been my time, I would have gone to the gateway, where I would have been met by, souls I was familiar with. But luckily, I didn't get that far. I didn't get to pass through and, came back. But I felt that it was her here, like in my heart. I just knew it was like, it was a different knowing to how you would know here on earth. It was like my energy knew her energy.
Yeah.
And it was there again, blending and, merging together again. And I felt that here. And I felt that when I woke. I still felt that when I woke up and I came round. I still felt that she was with me.
So you were seeing like this place, and if you were to go further, you would have went to the light, and that would have brought you into obviously this heaven-like area.
Right.
Okay. So what all can you describe that was around you besides the northern light and the light? If you can remember any of it.
I didn't actually see anything other than what I can describe as the northern lights. And then when I stopped moving and I felt myself still again, it was just this So if you were to imagine a quartz crystal ball, all white quartz, really milky, and you can't see through it because it's so milky. And it's almost as if I was stood in the middle of that.
Okay.
So I couldn't see anything.
Okay.
But
I can imagine that.
I didn't feel, and I'm actually claustrophobic, but I didn't feel constrained. I felt like I could move, like I was free, you know. So although it looked dense, it wasn't, if that makes sense.
Okay. Let's see. So when you were in that white fog, let's see, what did the white fog feel like emotionally?
It was absolutely amazing. I didn't feel afraid. I didn't even feel aware that I needed to feel afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Have I said that right?
Yeah.
I didn't feel any upset for anybody I'd left behind. And I knew that I'd left people behind. I knew I was somewhere else. I felt very peaceful, like a peacefulness I can't I can't explain. I felt joyous. I felt happy. I felt like my vibration was somewhere else.
Yeah.
I didn't feel sad. I got a little bit frustrated when they wouldn't reply to me. I got a little bit frustrated, not angry.
Yeah.
Like normally I would have here on Earth if I was to be ignored. Just a little bit frustrated. I wasn't apprehensive. It was just absolutely beautiful. Just if I've ever seen perfection, that was it. Or if I've ever experienced perfection, that was it.
Okay.
That was it. For the first time in my life, I belonged. This is where I wanted to be. This is where I needed to be. Although and I said this to my mum, that was alien to me, for want of a better word. But it was almost as when I was there, Earth was alien to me. And that was normal. That was natural. That was absolutely everything I'd ever known. I'd known that place before.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how I knew at that time.
Do you feel like maybe it was the place where you came from? If it was like,
Yes,
okay.
definitely. And that's how I knew it. I didn't know at the time, but I now know that I've been there before. And that's kind of like where I've come from. That's where my soul originated from.
You spoke about a higher dimension. Is this the same place? If it's not, what did it look like visually when you died? Besides the white light and the northern lights, you said that you kind of seen or was in this other dimension, or know that you was in this other dimension.
That is it. That is the other dimension.
Have you ever been there when you were astral traveling or sleeping?
No, never. Never.
Do you think that your near-death experiences are connected to, seeing the supernatural or having supernatural abilities?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Even more so now, because I've had like little mini triggers and little mini awakenings to spirituality throughout my life. But when this happened in 2014, that was it. Boom. I was catapulted way above my head. And that's why, I described I'd been to look for other groups, because I felt like I was losing my mind. And that's kind of like where that is. It was just this absolute mass awakening. I needed to know everything about everything. And tomorrow was no good. I needed it now, because I needed to know who and what I am, how to honor my path, what my path was, and how to work with that. And with all that came a massive, it was a spiritual awakening, but also a massive journey of self-discovery. I was discovering, the true essence of who I am. And that came with a lot of healing, a lot of forgiveness, healing in a child's wounds, and, everything else that comes with it. And then I came out with that. And I said to Mum, my mission here now is to help awaken, guide, and educate others who are where I was those years ago. I said, and I'm here disabled and, blind, and with everything else I've got going on, because I have to learn human suffering. And I've set myself out for this mission long before I came here. So, I have to be grateful for what I've asked for myself. And I've asked for this, on this body, so that I can understand human suffering, so that when I do ascend, I can better help humanity from up there, rather than having to come back here for another life and spend it as a human.
Yeah. Okay. You said that when you died, your soul switched out with another soul.
Right.
What made you feel that, or what made it? What made you just acknowledge it?
I didn't know me anymore.
Mhm. Okay.
Things that had previously been important to me, like money and having nice clothes and the things that most people want, and rightly so, everybody's deserving. But I didn't want that anymore. I wanted love. I wanted compassion. I wanted empathy. Materialistic things were of no importance to me anymore. And I was the complete opposite of who I was before that happened. And it wasn't the experience that did that to me over a period of time. It was an instant thing when I woke up.
Okay.
An instant thing. I was not the lady lying in that bed. That was the lady lying in that bed a few hours before.
Okay.
And I felt different. My thinking had changed. I still loved my family and my friends just like I had before.
Yeah.
But my whole way of thinking completely and utterly changed.
Okay. For those audience that don't know what this is, can you describe what a Sirian starseed is?
So Sirius is a star constellation in the dogma. I can't pronounce it. It's a star constellation. You've got Sirius A and Sirius B. I'm from Sirius A. It is the brightest star in the sky. When you look up at the night sky and you'll see the brightest star, that's Sirius. It's the closest star to the Earth. It's also described as the spiritual sun. In the pyramids, they would keep a little hole in the top of the pyramids, and they would align the pyramids with Sirius so that it could shine down into the tombs and light it up of a night time. Because yeah, it's the brightest star in the sky. Sirian star seeds are said to be around 80 billion years old, I think. So most of us have had many past lives. Some of you might have heard of an old soul. So a lot of Syrians are old souls, and basically an old soul means that you've had many past lives. So Sirius, very hot, and it's been argued a lot that no human life could live on Sirius, and I don't believe that it ever did. I believe that the reason I see the colours like I do when I'm associating the Syrians is because we never had a body. We've always just been energy. We've never needed a physical body. We are seen as lights, energy signatures, colours, and that's what a Syrian is. We've never ever had a physical body. So yeah, and then we get we choose our mission. Maybe we are one of the waves of volunteers as described by Dolores Cannon. If so, then I'd be a second waver because of my age. I'm around that age group. And I chose to be here on Earth to complete a mission. So there's a reason that I've been incarnated from my energy form on my soul on Sirius down here and into this physical vessel, because I have work to do. Okay. I believe that when I was born and I was Vikki, I went through my life just a normal soul, happy, and went through all the things that you do. Then the soul switch happened when I was 33, 7 years ago, because as a Syrian, I wouldn't have handled all the traumas that were there laid out for me in that lifetime. My Syrian self would not have handled it. So I chose to come in at that time to take over and continue to carry out my mission. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Do you think that a lot of people have their souls switched when they die and come back?
Well, apparently, what I've read, there aren't that many, but I'm not too sure of that. I think it's more a case of not that there aren't that many, but many aren't actually aware that that switch has taken place. They think that maybe the whole experience of being at the brink of death and looking at the Grim Reaper in the eye, it does things to your mind, and it can change a person. And yeah, absolutely it can. And I think that many think that it's just a case of that. They don't actually realize that that soul switch has taken place.
Yeah. Because all of a sudden their whole personality has changed.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. They have a whole new outlook
Right.
on life. Let's see. I only have a couple more questions left.
Okay.
Let's see. What do you think when you had when you disappeared for those 3 hours? So
Right.
the abduction. Uh, what do you think? What do you think they were? What their goal was? Do you think that they took out part of your woman organs, or I mean, what for that for? Because if you wasn't pregnant, just saying that, and they took you and you were gone for 3 hours, but then it looks like you had a baby and everything, or they took something out, like how? What do you think happened?
Well, one theory on that. Now, obviously, I've got nothing to confirm it. There's no evidence, there's no proof or anything like that, and I don't kind of like 100% sway with it. But one theory on that is that they took my DNA to recreate without putting it back inside me.
Okay.
So maybe somewhere out there's a little hybrid me running around. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's strange the fact that I still could have had children after that.
Yeah.
I'm now 40 years old and I don't have any children. It's never something that has appealed to me. And that's not because I don't love children. I've got nieces and nephews who I absolutely love and adore. I love children, but not my own. I've never been the maternal type.
Mhm.
I'm happy with my little 6 fur doggy children. And I'm wondering if somehow that's connected.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
fact that happened, and I've never wanted children.
That is a really
I
good
don't know
question.
if, in some way there might be that connection there somehow.
Yeah. Have you ever been abducted again since then?
No, but I have seen many, many, many times. I've seen the ships.
Hmm.
Not so much now because of my vision. But I get a lot of time slips.
Okay.
Like just the other day, for example, I was out in the garden with my husband, and I was having a cigarette, and the next thing he's gone in, and I walked in, and he says, "Oh," he says, "we've been waiting for you for dinner." And I said, "What? What do you mean?" He said, well, dinner's going to be ready in a minute. I said, "Oh, so you started cooking before we went out?" He said, "No, you've been out there ages. You've been out there for over half an hour." And as far as I was concerned, I've been out there for maybe 3 minutes having a cigarette.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of this happening. And, I say to my husband now, that's a time slip. They're coming close. They're definitely coming in close. And I believe that the paradigm shift, with all the business with COVID happening at the moment, I
Mhm.
believe that the paradigm shift is close and disclosure is definitely on its way.
Yeah. I agree. I already seen. I mean, it should have happened a long time ago, obviously, but America is finally our government's finally bringing it in with something so small, and there's been so many cases and encounters in America, and they could have used any of those. but they wanted to do something that I guess what is it? The military boat out in the ocean or something like that. They're
Right.
the ones that spotted it, or the Air Force. But we've been waiting for that for a very, very long time.
Yes.
And I feel
Yeah.
like they were doing that because they want to take the attention off something else. You
Right.
know.
Exactly. Like
Um,
what do they call it? False flag, is it?
hmm Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
didn't they do a disclosure in the UK like a while back? Or do you
No,
know?
no, nothing solid. No,
Okay.
but there's been a lot of famous cases, and one of them would have been the Berwyn crash site in the Snowdon Mountains, which is literally a drive away from where I live,
Okay.
and it's referred to as the Welsh version of Roswell. So yeah,
I'll have to look
yeah,
that
yeah.
up. What's that called?
Pardon?
I gotta look that up. What's it called?
I think if you were to just type in, rather than me, I can message it you anyway.
Okay.
But probably if you were to just type in the Welsh
Oh, well.
Roswell, I suppose it would come up.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
But
check that
apparently
out.
there are eyewitness accounts of them removing bodies on army trucks and such like. So
Yeah.
yeah, interesting stuff.
Wow. I have one more question, and then we will close out with your closing comments. For my
Okay.
last question, have you seen any other supernatural or paranormal entities since that time of being a little, and obviously when you were having your near-death experience?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, I'm definitely more of a hearer than I am a seer.
Okay.
And I've always been that way. I catch a lot out the corners of my eye, but it's that side actually, not that side, because I can't see anything that side. And usually it'll be what I do see a lot of. I get like this shooting black across my field of vision there, but I don't know if that's paranormal or if it is actually something to do with my vision, because it very well could be. I remember one time being at the hospital with my dad when I was little, and it was an old war memorial hospital. It's used as a college now, but it was a war memorial hospital, and it would have been, oh gosh, I was very, very young. I must have been about 5, because we hadn't moved to the other house where the brother was born. Yeah, I must have been about 5, and I'd sliced my wrist open, and I had to be rushed to this hospital. And as we were sitting there, they had the curtains open, and I was in this little cubicle, and the porters came across, and they were here in front with a trolley, and they stopped to talk to a nurse. And what I saw standing at the side was a person, but it looked like I was looking through glass, and it was kind of like wavy. Like if you look into a heat wave,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of like looked like that, but in the shape of a person. And I told my dad, and I said, "Look, can you see it? Who is that?" And my dad said, "There's nobody there." And I said, "No, Dad, really?" I said, "Look, see the man, see the man." And my dad got up and he drew the curtain across. But yeah,
So
but it's just been like, sorry.
did it look like an invisible person? Since it looked like a heat wave type of thing?
Yeah, but you could clearly make out that it had a head and shoulders and arms, and it was quite big. So I assumed it was male.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting. What happened when you seen it?
Pardon?
What happened after you seen it?
Um, Nothing. I think I went home and I was covered in blood. And my mum had put me in the bath, and I told mum what I'd seen. And again, mum said to me, "And did you call on Archangel Michael?" And I said, "Yes, mum, I did." And she said, "Then did it come back?" I said, "No, it didn't."
Hmm.
So yeah, and that again just goes to show how long mum has been doing what she's been doing, kind of
Yeah.
like undercover, like a little secret assassin.
That is really cool, though. That's pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
You said
Um,
you said that you've done medium work. What's your
yeah.
latest? What's the latest thing you've done for somebody for being a medium?
I have to be careful what I say because obviously confidentiality.
Okay.
Um, but the main line of my work with mediumship
Mm.
is connecting with the spirit of a client's past loved one.
Okay.
I'm not the type of medium, no disrespect to any medium that does. I just want to put that in there. But I'm not the type of medium that says they loved you very much, they're very proud of you, and that kind of thing, because you already know that. You know that that person loved you, and you know that they're very proud of you, and they're watching over you. I like to give, I first of all like to give that person proof that I am indeed connected to their loved one by telling them something that I wouldn't possibly know.
Yeah.
And then we kind of like go into the region. If there's any messages, a lot of the time, spirit doesn't really have a lot of like messages like about your future.
Hmm.
It's more, I find when I work with spirit, it's more messages of forgiveness. And telling their loved one, oh well we fell out maybe the year before I passed. And I know you've been a bit upset about that, but we fell out over this and it didn't really matter. And now I've transitioned, everything's very different, and we don't hold any resentment here. But it's usually kind of like along those lines.
Okay. Now, how does someone get a hold of you if they want to be able to, I guess, have you do medium work for them?
Either contact me via messenger, at Vikki Saren Bagnall. Saren is actually the Welsh word for star. I follow the stars, as we know, and it's also my witch name. So when I'm a witch, I kind of like step out of Vikki and I step into my inner witch. I don't practice anything dark. Witchcraft, it's neutral. It's neither negative or positive. It's
Yeah.
the person behind the witchcraft that makes it what it is, and it's
Yeah.
not evil like that. It's quite literally a manipulation of energy to achieve an outcome. I have a Facebook group. I did part own the large Facebook group, but I left there last October, and I created a group of my own with mum. We're both owners, and our group is the Sacred Spiritual Sanctuary, and in brackets we've got the SSS, and that's on Facebook. We also have a business page called the Spiritual Connection Centre, where we sell healing crystals. You can book in for past life regression with me. You can book in for mediumship. You can book in for a tarot reading, an oracle reading, a sound healing session. You can book in for one of mum's angel oracle readings, healing with the archangels. Literally everything that we do is there. We also offer paranormal advice on, clearing a home of negative energy. We do paranormal investigations. I'm back in that now. I'm currently working for the Society of Psychical Research as a demonologist and as a paranormal researcher. So I kind of like have their back in there with all of the work I do there. So yeah, we've come away from the other group and then kind of like gone at it alone and ventured out on our own 2 feet. Something I thought a blind girl would never be able to do, but here I am, and it just goes to show, in a world full of limitations, just be limitless. Be limitless.
All right. Well, you guys heard it. If you want to get in contact with her, you can message her directly, or you can join her group page. And you said it's the SSS, which stands for
the Sacred Spiritual Sanctuary. That's it, yeah.
Okay. Sacred Spiritual Sanctuary. So if you guys want to join that, and if you need any healing or medium work or any, spiritual or ghost investigations, she does it all. I really thank you a lot, Victoria, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it. You got some amazing stories, and I know the audience will definitely love hearing your personal experiences.
Absolutely.
And other than that, I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. Is there any closing comments or advice you'd like to give the audience before we end the show?
No, I don't think so. Other than, in a world of limitations, be limitless. Be limitless. Where there is a will, there is a way. And, like I say, I'm not here to convince anybody. I'm just here to share my experience in the hope that other people from it can find that hope and eliminate that fear of death. There really is. There's nothing to fear. I'm not in a rush for it to find me again. No, not by any means. I'm actually really enjoying my life at the moment, all things considered. But when that time comes, I won't be afraid. Not now. And yeah, that's me. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Well, you guys heard it, and that's her advice to you guys. So hope you take it in, and hope you guys have enjoyed watching this episode. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you, Victoria, for coming on. Other than that, I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching Real Supernatural Encounters. See ya.